On today's episode, we're going to make a comfort food classic that could be categorized both as hearty cuisine or medicine. Ancient philosophers used to believe it could cure anything from hair loss to leprosy to even bedwetting. This body-warming broth has provable scientific principles to make you feel better the moment you start eating it. Today, my friends, is all about chicken noodle soup on I Can Teach You How to Make That. Hi folks, welcome back. Today I get to play one part chef and one part pharmacist when we make chicken noodle soup. This hearty winter vegetable-filled bouillon seems to have a version of it in just about every culture. How could it not? It's delicious and therapeutic to the point of almost being medicine. Scientific studies even show that chicken noodle soup in fact has medicinal properties. One study found that consuming chicken noodle soup can reduce upper respiratory cold symptoms. I'm pretty sure I've never heard of tofu helping anybody. If this is your first time watching I Can Teach You How to Make That, welcome aboard. This is the show where we take classic dishes and break them down in such basic steps. Delicious is the only possible outcome. I'll even hold your hand in your local grocery store and guide you to the precise shelves to grab your exact ingredients. Okay, are you ready? Then let's grab a coffee, a cart, and our groceries for this hearty soup. Let's start this party by grabbing the star of the show. Head back to the butcher section in Safeway and grab one whole chicken. It should be labeled as an organic fryer. Don't be confused by this. We're not frying it, we're roasting it for our soup. The word fryer is just used to describe the size of the bird. Your chicken noodle soup is going to need some pasta, so make your way over to that section now. If you've watched any of my videos in the past, you'll know what a fan I am of Barilla pasta. They've been around for 4 generations since the 1800s, so their noodle game is dialed in tight. That's what I'm going to use here today. You're free to use any type of noodle you want. Bow tie, elbow, and egg noodle are all excellent choices for chicken noodle soup. I prefer to use rotini, and I'll explain more as to why later in the video. While we're in the grocery section, let's grab a couple of our dry ingredients. Grab one bag of bay leaves from the spice section, and if you don't have salt and cracked pepper at the house, grab some now as well. Push your cart over to the fresh produce section and make your way over to the fresh herbs. You're going to grab one package of the 2-ounce fresh herb poultry mix. Best invention ever. 1 part sage, thyme, and rosemary. So convenient. Right behind you are the yellow onions. Grab one bag. Don't be tempted and buy purple onions. They don't improve the quality of our soup. They kind of make our broth a weird color, and they're about twice the price. Next, we're going to grab our carrots. I prefer to use the largest carrot possible when I'm making soups, as when they're simmering for a long period of time, they'll hold their shape and texture. Right next door to the carrots is the whole celery. Grab one full stalk and let's get out of here. We're just about ready to get in the kitchen. Here's the list of tools we're going to need for today's project. We're going to need a large stock pot, a large soup pot, a cutting board, a chef's knife, a wooden spoon, a ladle, a strainer, and a vegetable peeler. And here's your list of ingredients you're going to want to have in front of you for your chicken noodle soup. You're going to want to have 1 organic Safeway chicken, 1 box Barilla rotini pasta, 1 bag yellow onions, some large carrots, some celery, bay leaves, and of course some salt and pepper. Hey, before I get going here, you should know this chicken noodle soup has about a 6-hour cooking time, so I break it down into 3 parts. I break it down into the roasting of the chicken, the making of the stock, and then the making of the soup. The final step of actually making the soup only really has a 30-minute cooking time. We're going to start by roasting our chicken after coating it in salt and pepper. I'm not going to go into specifics onto how to roast your bird, but what I will do is provide the link below to our tutorial called How to Roast a Chicken. Although the steps to make a crispy skin aren't as important since we're using the fowl for soup, it's still fun to snack on while we're cooking. Watch the How to Roast a Chicken video if you attempt this dish. You can thank me later. Once your chicken is done roasting, pull it out of the oven and leave it on the counter to cool. While our chicken's cooling, we'll begin to prepare all our vegetables. Start by peeling your onions, your carrots, and cleaning up all your celery. Be sure to keep your peelings off to the side. We use them for stock later. We use every part of the buffalo for this soup, so nothing hits the trash. Next, you're going to spend the next few minutes or a few hours dicing your onions, carrots, and celery. There are tutorials on my website on how to dice vegetables, but I think we can figure it out together here. The main focus is to have a good sharp chef's knife, patience, and focus. This isn't a contest. Take your time and use the claw technique with the blade resting against the back of your knuckle with your fingers pulled back. When I'm dicing vegetables for soup, I'm very focused on quality of cut and consistency of size. If my carrots look like they were cut with my fist, it won't inspire confidence or induce appetite. Also, when your vegetables are consistent in size, their textures all remain similar when cooking over a long period of time. The size of diced vegetables you're looking for is literally if M&M candies were perfectly square. Once your vegetables are prepared, put them off to the side as well as your peelings. Our roast chicken should be cool enough for us to break down now. And when I say break this chicken down, I literally mean break it down. Take your hands and break it apart and pull all the meat off the bone. Take all the bones, skin, and any of the remaining meat that you don't want into your soup, put it in your stock pot. Take your vegetable peelings as well as your fresh herb poultry mix and put it in your stock pot as well. Add about 4 or 5 bay leaves and fill about halfway up with very cold water. It's a weird thing to have to mention, but if you start with hot water, you won't be satisfied with your final stock. Some proteins, namely albumin, will only dissolve in cold water. Next, set your stove to a nice low simmer. Turn on the vent, put your pot on the back burner, and we're going to check back in about 3 hours. Before you take your eyes off the stove, you'll want to be very mindful of temperature. You're looking for a very low simmer. Don't be tempted to crank your stove on high, forget about it, and then have a full-on rolling pot. There's a saying in stock making, you boil it, you spoil it. When our stock is completed and we've squeezed out every ounce of flavor out of these bones, we'll remove all the peel, stems, and solids by scooping and straining. Be sure your stock is cool to the touch before you attempt this step. This is a very easy way to get burned with steam if you're not careful. Next, we're going to dice our chicken. Handling it is much easier once it's been in the fridge for a while. You're looking to dice it about the same size as your vegetables. Next, we're going to slowly sweat our vegetables over medium heat in a little bit of butter. The moment our vegetables even think about turning brown, we're going to hit it with our chicken stock. We're going to turn up our stove high enough to make our chicken stock and our vegetables boil. Once they come to a boil, we're going to add our pasta. For the pot like the one above, I'll add about 2 cups of the rotini. As I mentioned earlier in the video, you can use any type of noodle you want, but I prefer to use the rotini by Berea. This auger-shaped noodle doesn't break down as quickly as an egg noodle and will hold its shape for a couple reheatings. Its corkscrew shape also allows it to work as an amazing delivery system of flavor with every bite. After about 7 minutes of cooking your pasta, pull one of the noodles out with a spoon, pop it in your mouth, see how it feels. If it's still slightly firm to the tooth, that means it's al dente, and that's perfect. That means it's ready for our next step. Go ahead and add your chicken and turn down your heat a bit. The next minute or two is critical to the success of your soup, so be mindful. You want the heat on your stove to be hot enough to create a low simmering roll, but not hot enough to create a full-on aggressive boil. This stage uses the same principle as making our stock. You boil it, you spoil it. Next, we're going to complete our soup by adjusting our seasoning with salt and pepper. If you've watched my videos in the past, you've heard me describe seasoning like giving a good haircut. You want to get as close to the line as possible without going over. If you take too much off the top or add too much salt all at once, nightmare. Learn to season in increments of half, with each addition of salt and pepper being increased by 50% until it suits your taste. So there you have it, the classic chicken noodle soup. Here's the 5 key points to making this hearty original health food classic. Number 1, pre-roast your bird. It will give your stock more flavor and a better textured meat. Number 2, buy a quality noodle. I use rotini. I told you why. Experiment with a few different types until you have one that you like the best. Number 3, start your stock with cold water. If you think I'm kidding, try it both ways and make your comments in the section below. Number 4, incremental seasoning. Adjust by 50% each time, but don't ever cross that line. And number 5, use quality pots. Every pot I use has a very thick bottom to allow perfect conduction of heat. If you use a thin-bottomed pot, it's like cooking over tin foil. I've included a link to my Amazon store below that lists the pots as well as the other tools I use in all my videos. Be sure to walk through on your way out.
So, how did it go? I'm curious. If you boiled it and spoiled it, or you over-seasoned your soup, restart the video, wash your dishes, and fire it up again. Not that big a deal. I hope you enjoyed making this chicken noodle soup as much as I enjoyed explaining it. Until next time, I'm David Husserow on I Can Teach You How to Make That. Bye for now.